Hello everyone. Today we will cover the topic JavaScript variables. In the dynamic and ever-evolving world of web development, JavaScript stands out as a fundamental language that powers the interactive elements of the web. Central to writing efficient and effective JavaScript code is the understanding of variables, which serve as the basic building blocks for storing and manipulating data. Variable declaration in JavaScript. Variables in JavaScript are declared using three keywords: var, let, and const. Each serves a different purpose and comes with its own set of rules. Var. Introduced in the earliest versions of JavaScript, var declares a variable that can be reassigned and is function scoped. It means variables can be redeclared and reassigned within their scope. They are function scoped or globally scoped if declared outside any function. However, its usage has declined due to its limitations, such as potential issues with scope and hoisting. Let. Introduced in ES6 ECMAScript 2015, let allows for block-scoped variable declaration, meaning the variable is limited to the block in which it is defined. It supports reassignment and is preferred for variables whose values are expected to change. Const. Also introduced in ES6, const declares a block-scoped variable like let, but the variable must be assigned an initial value, and its value cannot be reassigned. It's ideal for constants that do not change throughout the execution of the program. Variable types in JavaScript. JavaScript variables can hold different types of data, including primitive types, such as strings, numbers, booleans, undefined, null, symbol, and big int. These represent simple data values. Reference types. Objects, including arrays and functions, are reference types. Unlike primitives, reference types represent complex data structures and are stored as references. JavaScript is dynamically typed, meaning variables do not need a type specified upon declaration, and their types can change during execution. Variable scope in JavaScript. The scope of a variable defines where it is accessible within the code. Global scope. Variables declared outside any function or block are in the global scope and can be accessed from anywhere in the code. Function scope. Variables declared with var inside a function are limited to the function scope. Block scope. Variables declared with let or const are limited to the block in which they are defined, enhancing code security and predictability. Here's a detailed comparison of the differences between var, let, and const variables in JavaScript, organized in a table format for clarity. Var example. We defined a variable called saySomething and set a value. Later, we defined the same variable again and set the value, but we didn't get an error. Afterwards, we defined the message variable in a function, set the value, and wanted to print this variable to the console while outside the function. And we got an error. Let example. We defined a variable called firstName and assigned a value. Then we assigned a value to the same variable again, but we did not receive an error. Then we tried to define the same variable again and got the syntax error. Then, we defined a variable in the if block and assigned a value. However, when we wanted to print this variable to the console outside the if block, we received the error variable is not defined. Const example. We defined a variable called count and assigned a value. Then we assigned a value to the same variable again and got an error. Because we cannot reassign a value to a const variable. Then we tried to define the same variable again and got the syntax error. Because we cannot redefine a const variable. Then, we defined a variable in the if block and assigned a value. However, when we wanted to print this variable to the console outside the if block, we received the error variable is not defined. Best practices for using JavaScript variables. In JavaScript, variable names are important for code readability and maintainability. Here are some guidelines and examples for naming variables effectively. Use meaningful names. Variable names should clearly indicate what data they hold. Use camel case for variables. JavaScript developers typically use camel case for variable names. The first letter is lowercase, and each subsequent start of a word is uppercase. Avoid reserved words. Do not use JavaScript reserved words as variable names, like new, class, return, etc. Start with a letter, $, or underscore. Variables must start with a letter, $, or underscore. They cannot start with a number. Use constants for unchanging values. Use const for variables that won't change. The name should be in uppercase, with words separated by underscores. Use plurals for arrays. If a variable represents a collection of items, use a plural name. Boolean variables. Boolean variables should represent a true or false condition and often start with is, has, can, or similar prefixes to indicate a yes or no condition. Be descriptive and concise. Names should be long enough to be descriptive but short enough to be easily readable. See you in the next coding lesson. Don't forget to like and subscribe.